program might contain strong language. If you think you may be offended, switch off now.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Watch Mojo and the 2025 Year in Review edition of the Inside Podcast. I am your host, Rob. With me, as always, is Watch Mojo's CEO and co-founder, Ashkan Karbas-Frushan. What's up, Ash?
It's crazy when you put it that way. It feels like yesterday. I was standing on a beach and you emailed me saying, I want to do podcasts. And here we are. It's crazy.
The year has flown by. From your vantage point as Watch Mojo CEO, how would you describe 2025 in one sentence?
I think it was a year of resurgence. You know, we had things that were out of our control starting in 22, interest rates going up, kind of sanity coming back to the marketplace, which I always welcome, which kind of created all these headwinds that we had to navigate. And then I think we kind of bottomed out in 24, July, literally. And then we kept growing and growing. And this year we could look back and be like, oh, yeah, it wasn't just talk or a mirage. Like we're in our third phase of growth in our 20-year history. So it's a great year, everything being said. Exciting. Sets the stage for 26.
Yeah. You mentioned this time last year, you received an email from me pitching a podcasting initiative, and look where we are now. This is episode 34. We did our first batch of 20 inside Watch Mojo or Inside Mojo, and those were focused mainly on the company's 20-year history and the parallels between, the company's development and YouTube's development. And then we branched off into different topics each week with the more general Inside podcast. We're on episode 14 of that today, and that's not even to mention the other projects we've done.
And I was going to say, like your podcast with Unveiled obviously got a lot of traction. And then this created, the first 20 episode of Inside Mojo created like a framework of like what other podcasts we should do. And Yvonne, the producer on this show, and Sean and others, and Matt, obviously. No, it's good. I mean, for us, as we've said it, is when you're like a leader in videos, podcasts are kind of a step down from a production lens. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you're New York Times publishing great articles, podcasts with or without video are like a step up. So for us, it was also a challenge of like tackling the medium and the format while staying true to our like editorial ethos, but also not to like create a cheap product just for the sake of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of aligns with audience trends that we see where people are, on one end demanding longer and longer content, and then on the other side demanding shorter and shorter content, which we've really expanded our shorts offering too. So it's like moving in both directions at once. But let's take the conversation to the media industry at large. How have things changed in 2025? You mentioned that it was sort of a media reset this year. How is that the case?
I think what started with in 22, where interest rates start to go up to reflect inflation. Your interest rate is basically inflation rate plus the real net, rate of return. So it made money more expensive. So people had to become more selective. It took a bit of time depending on project and company. But I think this was a year that I loved, which was like a lot of the nonsense and, vaporware just leave the stage. I think this year, if you were going to do something, you really had to have conviction. You weren't just doing it because like your neighbor across the street was doing it. You were doing it because you believed that it made sense. And that's usually the environment that we have done well in, like if you look at certain inflection points, 2007, 8, 2011, 12, it was always periods where others realized they were doing things that were not sustainable. And then it created a bit of an opening for us.
Is there any sort of audience fatigue happening right now with regards to, it doesn't seem like the box office is doing particularly well. Streaming has kind of taken over, but people are a bit bored of that. And there's more movement now with big acquisitions being made, Netflix and Warner Brothers, et cetera. What's that landscape looking like?
Yeah, I mean, I think I always start macro. I think there's generally a human being fatigue coming out of COVID, work from home, return to office, AI, demographics, inflation. You read the metrics, you're like, oh, inflation was only 2-3%. But then you go to the grocery store and you're like, why does my bacon cost, $15? So I think in general there is this like fatigue and nevra that people have been brewing. Now in our little world of entertainment, absolutely. It's like I try to watch a random sports match. It's like good luck. Is it on the first cable channel you used to watch it? Nope. Is it on the second cable channel you didn't want but you had to get? Nope. Is it on some streamer? Is it a dick swinging match between Jeff Bezos and you know whoever else that they're overpaying for rights, like disrupting the user experience? It's a bit ridiculous. But yeah, no, there's definitely fatigue. But also, what are you going to do about it? Like this is what I tell people. I wrote an article yesterday about Quebec 3.0. It's a lot of talk. People talk a lot. They vent a lot. They whine a lot. What are you doing? Are you doing anything to change it? You're unhappy.
Well,
You have the, like you, me, everybody, Joe. You could change your life. You could change things. You don't have to accept, things in your life that you don't like. But I also think people are full of it. They're apathy. It's all talk. And, it's like as an
to a large
entrepreneur, you
degree.
meet a lot of people that talk a lot. As an investor and other entrepreneurs, I sure as hell meet a lot of entrepreneurs that talk a lot. What are you doing to actually like solve this, frustration?
Yeah. Well,
Um,
they say people vote with their wallets, and we saw that with the decline of cable television and then the rise of streaming. But I feel like that is going to hit its own sort of decline. I feel like the growth phase is over for that now, isn't it?
Okay, yes and no. While absolutely, we'll call it the second, maybe even the first kind of like streaming wars is over. I actually think you're starting a new phase where a lot of like, HBO might merge with Netflix, or HBO could have merged with Paramount Plus. And then sports rights are going to go back to a bundling effect where you're like, yeah, why do we have 7 different touch points with the consumer? So yeah, these things are always very, regression to the mean, like the way in business companies merge, acquire, and then they spin off and divest. And you saw that with cable and these streaming platforms where, media became fragmented. I used to be able to watch Canadians matches on Radio Canada, CBC, or maybe at most TSN, FDS. Good luck now if you want to know, who's playing when, what time. But I think you're going to see both. You're going to see a little bit of a flight to quality to the leading platforms, but then the leading streamers are also going to get much, much stronger. And that means offering more value in theory to clients. Whether or not they offer value is another point, but that's at least the playbook.
Right. So are the tech companies going to be taking a cue from legacy media? Because it seems like, yeah, you mentioned like the bundling and the packages, and it just seems like a more sensible way to offer, product to people, which is much more simple. Are we going to see more of that?
So a lot of people are going to get butthurt by this, but the reality is that these organizations, there's usually like one visionary doer leader that sees the future and 9 followers that are, struggling with inertia and complacency. But yeah, I think some of it is herd mentality, which applies to everybody. So if you are, for example, at a YouTube and historically you're like, well, we don't care about rights. We don't want to own the IP. We just want to be a platform. Well, if you see Netflix and Paramount and HBO and all these companies, Warner, making moves, you're also going to find yourself sucked into this mindset. You're like, maybe we should also make moves for rights and not just be a platform. And it's like that pyramid and sphere that we alluded to last week. I think the difference between a technology company that is a platform that has access to audience versus a content company that has rights and library, I think those are going to continue to mesh into one. Again, Amazon bought MGM. They may buy many more things. YouTube and Google's no different. I think, again, full transparency, since I tweeted this, I'm going to pitch them if we submit a proposal for the expos. I'm like, I'd love it if Bell and Videotron wake up, but and they have actually both got back to me in the last 24 hours. And I don't mind being very transparent because this is a civic project. If Bell and or Quebecor want to partner, obviously we'll listen. But I also am like, where's the puck headed? Maybe we should pitch the rights to YouTube and Amazon and even Netflix and whoever else, you know.
Yeah,
So
I think I just saw today that I think YouTube now has the exclusive rights to the Oscars or something
yeah,
as
they
of
got the right to the
2020.
Oscars. Well, I also think nobody gives a damn about the Oscars, let's be honest. And yeah, my little thing is like 15 years ago, let me not be crude, their council threatened nuclear legal jihad. And when I articulated our legal position, he was like, oh, I see you know the law, but we might still want to sue you. And I was like, very politely, I told the team, I said, nobody gives a damn about the Oscars. And look at it today. If anybody gave a damn about the Oscars, ABC and Walt Disney that had the rights would have still paid for it. The fact that ABC and Walt Disney's like, you guys could go find something else. And it's YouTube's insecurity to be seen as more credible, more legit, more mainstream, that they're probably giving them a deal that isn't even that much of a sweetheart. Nobody cares about the Oscars because they were a bunch of nearsighted Luddites. So yeah,
I
so
think more people will probably watch it on YouTube than
yeah,
they would
because
have
nobody's
on
watching ABC, but it's
for sure.
also like if you wait 10 years to take care of something, by the time you take care of it, it's too late.
Mhm.
So, good for them. I'm happy for them, and I'm happy for YouTube. Ultimately, for us to continue to do well on YouTube, we need YouTube to look more and more like TV.
Yeah.
So take the Oscars, take whatever other garbage things you want to take that nobody cares about. And I'm not being facetious. I'm just saying, does a 14-year-old really care about the Oscars? No, but in the trades, in the press, it's a win. But it's really, is it a win? Does anybody really care about the Oscars anymore?
Yep. I just want to take a moment to say hello to everybody in the comments who's writing to us. And if you have any questions for us, please leave them down there and we'll get to them, whether they're about anything Watch Mojo has done in
It's extra
2025.
spicy since it's December. I'm like vendetta, vengeance. I'm not a vindictive person, but whoever that lawyer was from Quinn Emanuel can go kiss my ass right now because I was right, basically. But let's move on.
Sure. So with that said about YouTube and the streaming platforms like Netflix, how has free video fared versus subscription-based video over the past year?
Yeah, so in all of my presentations going back many, many years, I would always say that SVOD, subscription video on demand, like Netflix and others, it's easier to monetize, so it makes a lot of noise, as it should. But I said long-term, people look for free. Free is undefeated, like gravity. And I said watch time. People are spending more time around AVOD, but the advertising dollars don't reflect it. So I think that is now happening where there's enough advertising leaving TV and other dying media like print, which I don't even think is a thing anymore. And it's flowing to AVOD, so not surprising. And I think that's why YouTube is only going to get stronger. And I think we're going to have all these like second tier wannabe YouTube things, which will get some, dollars. But I really think this is why I said YouTube is only going to get stronger the next decade. I think YouTube is going to go parabolic. And so long as we're on that train, ride that train, don't fall off that train, we'll benefit a little bit as a result of that. But for sure, the spoils will go to the platform. YouTube is going to, it's not too late to buy Google stock because YouTube is going to really, really crush it in the decade to come.
We got one question in from Taekwon Williams. I was going to save this for the end, but we might as well address it now since it was asked. What's next for you and Watch Mojo for 2026? So,
I've said don't expect extraordinary outcomes by doing ordinary things. So we will continue to do the things that I call our core. Watch Mojo, Miss Mojo plays. We'll iterate a bit like by doing podcasts, which are a different kind of format to covering broad topics we may have covered otherwise. But a few of the initiatives that I'm really pushing into, for one, is our slate of scripted shows, which I had developed and sat on. But, I'm already attaching showrunners and screenwriters to projects like Countdown, which is like the social network, or The Founder meets the YouTube Watch Mojo kind of version. We're going to be doing Not Down for the Count, Running Out of Ideas, running out of ideas is like The Office, but about YouTube on YouTube. That might be more of a pilot, like vertical short style, but it'll be kind of teasing what would eventually be Watch Mojo fictionalized, where each episode is like, we got to do a list, and then you have like hilarity and debate and friction. And there's so many other projects. And frankly, I'm now running with Principles. Sorry, Principles is something else. Principles is a very different. I won't even get into it today. I am also like pushing now Willpower, which is like Field of Dreams meets Moneyball, about what I'm doing with the expos, but fictionalized, but that through line of reluctant entrepreneur who starts a company, forgets about it, almost, not me, so I'm exaggerating, almost becomes a sellout, almost becomes what he hated and criticized 20 years ago. The guys who start with nothing, end up somewhere, then turn their back on community. And there's a scene where, I was like, Ash from 2003 has a letter to Ash in 2025. Well, I can't make it too like Harry Potter like. I was like,
I think that's what Jim Carrey did. Didn't he write a letter to himself and then told him to give himself 5 years to make $1 million or something, and then he did that?
No, so I was working on that last night, and I realized the best way is just a letter in a box. Like I have this box of mementos, and like let's say I go to look for like this Delino the Shield sign card, which is going to prop in everything we've done in the early years, and a ball. People said I had ADD when I did the Brody Brazil. I don't think I have ADD. I probably have worse. But anyway, focus, Ash. So that is a big part of what we're going to be doing. And then, I won't lie, this Expos revival project becomes more and more, in terms of what we control, like preparing a great proposal that is baseball first, community driven, financially structured properly. And then eventually in 27, 28, submit it to MLB and be like, if you decide. I think that I will spend a bit of time on, and all the derivatives. Like we could eventually have like Inside Expos as a standalone weekly where we discuss, also like NBA is doing expansion. So it's not just the Expos, because I realize this is an exercise in patience. It's like that scene, that meme of Narcos where he's just waiting. Like before long, I'll have the financing lined up. I'll have everything lined up. And I'm like, no, I got to wait for MLB to RFP us. But so I want us to keep doing the core fundamental things that make us strong. But we're going to go parabolic. We're going to go crazy. We're going to do things that people say you can't do. And as I found out today, most of the people, when they talk you out, is because they got bullshit conflicted rationales. Like they're advising the other group that's also pitching the stupid Expos. Like not that the Expos are stupid. They're stupid. They got misaligned objectives. So you also have to start to block out the noise and just, go for the ball. Like go score. If you want to get the ball, go score. Otherwise, shut up and get out of my effing way.
What is the projected timeline for that? You're looking at 2030 as the
So
goal,
I think 2026 next year they will have a CBA discussion, and sadly they may have a labor stoppage, like a strike or some kind of lockout. 27 they're going to probably want to renegotiate rights because they're getting more lucrative. And then from what I've read, Commissioner Rob Manfred is going to wants to retire by 2029, 2030. So my guess is sometime around 28 they'll be like, anybody want a team? I wish nothing but the best to Nashville, Salt Lake City, Portland, Orlando. But I do think Montreal is a compelling case because of the population. The corporate base here is pretty strong. The history, the legacy. I also think, again, I'm a nobody, not to overplay our hand. I think if a Watch Mojo comes along and says we're part of the mix in terms of marketing and our unity, which rearranging as Fan OS or Thanos,
right,
like a platform where sports teams, sports leagues could open up their games to fans to create highlights, mashups, but they could control the IP, they could control the rights, they could control exactly what you guys use Unity for. Wouldn't that be incredible if you're the league, instead of just some kid randomly taking, a Connor McDavid shootout and just putting it on X? If you could give the control back to the leagues. But I'm also fine, if some other group wants to come and propose another nonsensical condo project with the league and the stadium as an afterthought, where they're just, whoring up this amazing franchise and legacy of the Expos so they could score 5 extra points in their portfolio return, and the league prefers to go with them. I defer, go with them. But, I say this in jest. I'm a man of the people. I hear the community is into it. It's in my wheelhouse. And I also think, again, if you and I are on a plane going to a business meeting and the captain has a heart attack and the guy next to us is like, I'm a pilot, wouldn't we want him? Wouldn't he want to, or he or she, get up to land the plane?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this Expos project, I realize, is like you need somebody who, okay, has the network, has the time, the temperament, but it's like somebody filling out an application. It's like, yes, here. And so I'd be a hypocrite. Not
I think you check a lot of the boxes. I wouldn't sell yourself so short.
Yeah, but no, thank you. No, I think, yeah. But the point is, I'm not here to play hero, but I'm also not here, like, F you money is not, and I hate that term, but we all know what it means. F you money is not all of a sudden you're rude to people. You don't open the door and you're like, it's the opposite. It's you could take the time to do things that most people would like to do, but they can't. But it's also, I don't care. Like, Montreal was built by people that were like me, risk takers, bold. Then their kids took over and for 50 years sat and suffocated the city just to preserve their power. And they don't like me saying this, but come debate me. Come tell me how I'm wrong. Where am I wrong? And now the third generation, I see they email me and they want, I have more than enough support. Like, already the P portion will be oversubscribed. The high net worth family office, I'd like it if it's from local. If not, there's already starting to be interest from abroad, like premature, just to educate themselves. But I get a lot of people that work for these families and these corporations that like are trying to get involved, but they're like, well, trying to see what our supreme leader wants to do. F them. They're not going to help you. They're not going to help you. They're not going to help the city. They're here to mitigate risk, not mess up their legacy, zero vision. And I think, forget me, even forget the Expos. For those people, your future is not going to get helped by these people who are just trying to preserve their fortunes.
Yeah.
It's not very complicated, right? And in America, it's so big that nobody's offended if somebody tries to create something out of nothing. But here, these people get offended because you don't want them to sit on your neck and starve you and drown you and not let you grow as a person. So I kind of view it more as a calling for that, where this is a challenge to the city, to everybody, and saying, your allegiances are in the wrong place. So anyway,
maybe you can start a cultural change that has a lasting effect.
Well, somebody said this. I think I said this. Change never comes from expecting the people that you hope will improve things. Change actually generally comes from reluctant people.
Mm-hmm. So shifting gears back to Watch Mojo, we also got holiday wishes for some of our presenters, which is very nice. Patrick, Phoebe, Peter, Ryan, Ricky, and Young Deuces. And also another question, how is the Watch Mojo lady, aka Rebecca, who, now that I think about it, why haven't we had her on this podcast yet?
Well, she came. No, it's true. She's got a standing invitation. So Rebecca, again, like, I discovered her 20 years ago, So I don't know if like we've ever been the kind of platform for talent that is more ad-libbing, on their feet quickly, like more raw. It's not a good or bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've always been more of a home for people that take the time to polish their craft, whether it's voiceover, whether it's research. So this isn't for everybody. Like, even when we had Brendan from the Gazette to talk about the Expos or the Habs, I think, he was like, oh, it's live? When we had the gentleman join us for the unveiled UAP, he was like, oh, it's live? Live isn't for anybody, but Rebecca's more than welcome to join us anytime she'd like. Maybe in the new year, like as a what to look out for this year.
Yeah, I think we should, as a sort of evolution of this, maybe try to extend the invitation to more more
Sure,
staff members to
yeah.
join us. Quick one here. Who's going to win, Joshua or Jake Paul?
Well, is it a real? Let's start with that. Is this a real contest?
That's an entire other debate, whether the fight is going to be legit or not. But let's assume that it is. Does Jake Paul have any chance against Anthony Joshua?
Not on the like tail of tape merits, but I think on the theatrical Hollywood side, yeah, but not on the tail of the tape. Like that wouldn't make sense. But you could have said that about his previous matches as well. Ultimately, I give them credit for reinventing themselves and, you know,
popularizing boxing, which
well,
was
no,
kind
but
of
everything.
struggling.
Like the Paul brothers are venture capitalists apparently. Like whether they're symbolic figures or not, like you got to give them credit for not resting on their laurels and pushing the envelope, unlike some dinosaurs we're well aware of.
Yeah. Do you think that Mike Tyson was pulling his punches against him during their match?
Yeah, no, I mean Mike Tyson could have eaten the entire Paul lineage going like 7 generations in the future. No, let's be honest there.
Yeah, I saw some of the video replays that it looked like he was really holding back a lot. So, anyways, we'll see what happens with that. I'll watch the replay after the fight. Getting back to Watch Mojo. So, what worked in 2025 and what didn't? What changes will need to be made next year, if any? And like, what's your takeaway for the company after this year?
No, I think so. You gotta like adapt or die, and I think good ideas can come from anywhere. But the reality is, like, you know, we've talked about the trends in media. Like, you have to be authentic. You have to have a like authority. You know, you have to really be passionate about it. You have to be patient. So that I think was last year. But this year, I would just say that, like, realistically for us, because we're a big company, things take 2 to 3 quarters, like 6 to 9 months for us to just figure out the editorial, figure out the production. And then it's going to take another 2, 3 quarters, so 6 to 9 months for us to figure out the distribution, let alone the commercialization. So I've become a lot more rigid to say I'll take in any idea, but I'm not going to waste my team's time because they, like me, have become very open to listen. So I'm like, let's just think it through and then ask ourselves, we have the conviction, the patience, because like whatever we want to do is like a 1.5 to 2 year venture. So a lot of the initiatives we started in the last 2-3 years are now starting to take shape. So in some ways, the core of the business just has to grow into those things. But the new things, I've said it, the threshold is really high. In the, you know, since I made my last like investment of money, time, energy, advisory, and any kind of other projects outside of WatchMojo was late 22, early 23. So it's been 2-3 years almost. Nothing came close. The first thing that came close was the expos, external project, and internally the slate, because it was things I always wanted to do. And I was afraid people would be like, are these pet projects? Like you block out the noise. So for us, I do think it's like this by like dichotomy where it's like, let's really execute the things that are close to us and really, really get behind the ball, really connect. But then if we're going to do anything that's a bit outside of our sweet spot, not only it's got to meet those things of authenticity and patience, but could it like change the world, you know? And it's a tough hurdle, but purposely, because left to my own devices, I want to help everybody on every project, but then I'm just going to have another burnout, which doesn't make sense.
Looking at WatchMojo's editorial, it's clear that we rely less these days on external trends and virality than we used to. So is this emphasis on consistency a good thing to you? Is that going to,
I mean, I think some of it is because we are less like we're past the peak, you know, peak TV streaming geek culture era.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we used to do a lot of original programming, sketch comedy, skits, you know, cooking, whatever. And then obviously, both as a personal interest, but just seeing where the puck was headed, we really doubled down on geek culture, which meant we were going to be producing derivative, transformative shoulder programming. I do think that that is waning, and between AI strikes, Hollywood being just a retard, you know, ground zero for kakistocracy and nepotism and the, you know, the holy grail of bad decisions that made sense in a bygone era. I definitely don't think we should like hitch our ride to just covering what Hollywood is doing. And it's hard on a culture basis because we hired all these people that are fans of the Disney universe and, you know, Marvel and all that. But it's like it was hard. But I think this year the team realized that we're just good at like telling stories, and we could come up with like whether it's true crime or UAP or history, things that don't really rely on others. And I think that's what you're seeing now.
Yeah, and like you always say, it's cyclical too. So it's not like we'll never get serious
We'll go
about
back.
covering Hollywood
I
again.
mean,
You know,
no, you're right. And in some ways, whether the Ellisons and Paramount acquire Warner Brothers or Netflix acquires Warner Brothers, maybe not to the same profound effect as when Disney bought Marvel, Pixar, Lucas, but I think you're going to see an investment like in DC IP that maybe you just didn't see in the last decade. Or maybe the Looney Tunes, you know, Roadrunner becomes this thing, and we start covering the origins of Roadrunner, which seems crazy, but 15 years ago, people thought I was crazy, where I'm like, we should do a biography of Batman. And they're like, you know, he's not real, right? I'm like, you don't understand my point. I think because he's not real, it would be. So, yeah, so I think there's going to be another event to trigger that, but you can't wait for things to happen. You have to go after the puck.
Yeah, you briefly mentioned AI, and that's one thing that's kind of been revolutionizing our industry in a lot of ways, for better and for worse. You know, people have different things to say about it, but from your view, where has the automation enabled by AI helped, and where has it become clear to you that humans are still needed in certain positions?
Well, I mean, look, I'm a fundamental believer that humans will always be needed in everything, but I also think that humans would not be here if it wasn't for technology, whether it was the printing press, whether it was, you know, the internet, fax machines, or whatever. I do think we're now past the point of people questioning it. I think when doctors are like, the world of medicine will change. When investment bankers are like, yeah, we don't need to spend, you know, if I look at the last year, AI was an aid. It was a research analyst. It was like a filter to edit. It was just like a sounding board. I got more done in a year, I don't want to say than ever, because obviously when I started WatchMojo and other years, I got a lot done in certain years. But I mean, I think this year, the reason I got so much done is because AI just allowed me that at moments when I would have writer's block or just entrepreneur, you know, angst or whatever, that like AI would just, I could just feed it a prompt or two and then get me something. Or if I would write something that was a bit more emotional, it would filter it and make it seem more sane, less crazy. So no, I actually think now that, like, you know, we started at a board meeting this morning and I said for adoption, for alignment, we started off AI for us very bottom up. But then to execute, it became very top down, where you guys remember, I was like, hey, if I say by December 1st, 80% of our projects have some AI to help, not to replace, but to help fact check, to make it less clunky. You guys were like, what, 80% December 1st? And then you guys were like, no, the number's really whatever, 25% by here, 40%. So I do think now we're past that in like industry and the economy of people questioning the merit. You know, if you're not using AI to research your trip, to look for recipes, to see if that little bump on your leg is just a bump or polio, like, you're an idiot at this point. You know, it's like, if you really, really are going to plan a trip without Google in 2000, guess what? You know, you're going to the wrong country, my friend. Like, I can't help you, you know? And I think the team, again, the reason why culture eats strategy for breakfast, the same strategy, if the team was not, you know, didn't believe in what we do, didn't, you know, it wouldn't work. So, so I think this is going to be the year where you're going to really see AI become a lot more natural, no second guessing, not a lot of resistance. But the people that are still like Luddites with their head in the sand, like, I think society will leave them by, because AI does replace a lot of skills and steps that before you needed a human, but now you could just bypass.
I don't know how much you want to get into this, but in terms of company culture this year, what have you seen? Because there were some changes that have happened.
I'm very transparent, I'll tell you. So first of all, I love people.
Some key team members left us this year.
Why not? We're not going to do this in bullshit. Okay, so WatchMojo is this anomaly in that, yeah, starting off at the beginning of 2025, we were still the same 5 co-founders. of which 2, myself and Christine, are a couple, a spouse. Like, this is weird. She hasn't killed me after. So Watch Mojo is not like, you can't really write a case study for like IBM to use, like, but it's a fascinating case study. So I think what happened was we had, like, in the 2016, the 10-year anniversary, which triggered WatchMojo 2020, we hired a lot of people. And then a few years later, we had COVID. So I was always like, as I've said, glasses half full, kumbaya. I'm also not one of these people that when I have a lieutenant on my team or a soldier on my flank that I'm like, they're great, but then if they die or they resign or there's mutiny, I'm like, well, this guy was a bum. I'm not like that. People are the same to me, whether they're on the team or not. So I always saw the good in people, but the reality is I also realized that given our culture and all that, that maybe we didn't necessarily have like the best person for a given role. I'll just leave it at that. But I was not going to go ungrateful, like kill that person and be like, I am Alexander the Great, you are Parmenio, I kill you because I'm going to put some, like, that's not the way I am, basically. But yes, when they, through their own volition, decided to leave after like 5, 10, 15, 20 years, which is a hell of a run of loyalty, I was not razzled at all because I was like, oh, this is an opportunity. As one of my advisors said, never let a good crisis go to waste, and it wasn't a crisis. So we had so much depth and we have such a good culture that kind of, okay, after the initial 24 hours of mourning, I was like, okay, Rob and Sean, you guys are promoted to this. Dick and Tom, you're promoted to that. Sally, I've always wanted to. And if I can be honest, we had a great year. Not because the other people that left were bums, not at all, but because that's how you build a championship team. I've always looked at sports organizations that sometimes see a player leave and then miraculously there's another 4 players that emerge and fill. Like Tom freaking Brady, I couldn't for the life of me, well, Glenn, a few of their receivers and tight ends, but he kept losing tight ends and receivers and he kept still winning because it was a system.
Yep.
So we actually had our best year in years. And this is going to hurt some people's feelings, and I don't care. I'm not saying it as a reflection of them. I'm saying as a reflection to those who stayed and stepped up. We had our best year because we are adaptable and because we kind of were like, hey, these are things that we were not willing to test and experiment, that now we're more comfortable to experiment. And again, at our board meeting, I literally said it. I said earlier on, I had to understand what culture eats strategy for breakfast beans. But I said this year, because we had such a good culture, we could both step people up. We could embrace new technology like AI. Nobody had an ego. And I used to say this, if I'm not a diva, how could you be a diva? Not you, you know what I mean? Like if I view myself as a mere mortal nobody, just here, prove yourself on every player, get off the pitch. I'm like, why you have this big chip on your shoulder when you also haven't necessarily accomplished anything that would even then not give you carte blanche to be a a-hole.
Yeah.
So we had a great year. Even my board members were all a bit flabbergasted. I did reset. This is really transparent. I did reset everything because I said it's been 5 years we've had investors. And I go, I'll take any criticism. It's fair. But I said, let's look at our competition. Publicly traded firms like BuzzFeed and Ziff Davis and Enthusiast Media. We've all lost some of them up to 95% of their value. And then I said, who are our private competition? Vice and others. Vice filed for bankruptcy. So I kind of was like, we had a great year. I'm tough on myself. I go, but if you don't understand, like you can't be selective when you talk your private equity investor talking points. I was like, you always say everything's in market. So let's look at the market. I go, we destroyed our peers again. I told them, I said, ask me, push me, criticize me, but like I'm tired of bullshit at this point. Like talking points, we're not in kindergarten. I'm like, we have a great team, we have a great culture. We're not perfect, we're executing, and we're going to keep executing. I'm like, help me get the company to where I think it could be in 5 years and 10 years. But I go, let's also not be lacking intellectual honesty. I'm like, we had a phenomenal 5 years when you think about it, and we had a great year this year.
Yeah. So halfway through the decade now, and you mentioned the plan for WatchMojo 2020, but we also are now looking towards WatchMojo 2030. At this point, what is the outlook shaping up to be for WatchMojo 2030? What's the vision there?
So WatchMojo 2030 is more ambitious, but is more realistic. But the main takeaway is it's like I call it the battleship strategy, which is two coordinates have to connect. And those coordinates, one axis is the product, the offering, the content, and then the other one is the distribution shelf where that content lives. So for example, for the past few years, we've been developing some games. So that will live on, whether it's Steam or Switch or wherever, like it's a different thing. Podcasts under the audio serve a different thing. We also have the Aria music album that will come out slowly but surely, but convincing the estate of a deceased Iranian singer to let us translate her lyrics into English in a reimagined hard rock song is not obvious, but I'm
Has
a
that been an obstacle?
I get it there. It's like Celine Dion, let us redo this in like Swahili as a heavy metal song. Yeah, Celine Dion's family could be like, I'm not so sure. Anyway, and then the other one is, I think for us, we have this huge catalog. So reimagining these as like what looks like TV channels.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is a huge opportunity. But then the other big one is the slate. I mean, to me, starting to finally block out the noise to produce these comedies, drama series, and features.
Tell me about the slate, because I'm not even aware of what that is, to be honest with you.
So the slate is, let's say running out of ideas, a comedy series, which is, again, think The Office, but WatchMojo, where each episode it's like, we got to do a list on this, and that creates friction. It's comedy. So that's one idea. Fait accompli is imagine Alexander the Great's life. But, I might have mentioned this, but set in modern times. So it's a kid who is like young. His dad, Philip, is older. He wants to push Philip out. Alexander and his mom may have killed Philip, the king of Macedon, to turn it from like a dairy producing company to a fashion app. And whispering in this young Alexander's ear is his buddy who is gay because Alexander was bisexual. So it's like reimagining Alexander's life in modern
times. So the slate is like the channel where all these things will live.
Okay, so it's case by case. I think with WatchMojo, where the puck is headed, some of these we will be able to put it on Mojo TV, which is our fast offering. Some of these we could just take a shot and do TVOD. You have AVOD, advertising video on demand, SVOD, subscription on demand, TVOD, transactional video on demand, which by the way is OnlyFans business model. The reason why, just for research, the only reason why I realized, I was like, why is OnlyFans this successful to monetize? Like, why is it generating so much revenue? And I realized it's TVOD. Yes, some people pay, I guess, to engage with.
Is it also like what pay-per-view is?
Exactly. It's more like pay $5 to watch this episode.
Yeah.
So there's shows like that. But there's other shows like Countdown, which is like, again, the social network, but the YouTube through the WatchMojo fictionalized. I mean, that could be something that Netflix or Paramount wants it for Paramount Plus or Roku or Tubi. So we have all these different projects. And yeah, before I was kind of like holding back because I was like, it seems very vain, very Mr. Hollywood. But that's where the media world is going. We can't expect just to do more top 10s, more clip-based. Like, people come to me and they throw out ideas and they're pretty low in terms of yield and potential. But instead of just saying this is bad, I'll go to the drawing board and I'll sit there and I'll come up with something. So I'm very, very bullish. And I've started to match it. So I'll be writing about these projects a bit more over the holidays, because I have like one gentleman, Tom Woodley, that I've known for a while. Well, he's going to help me with running out of ideas. One of our advisors, Chris Fenton, producer, a lot of credits to his name. He's helping me out with Countdown. There's no shortage. I think it's just time. But also the projects I'm doing now are like additive. It's like A times B yield C, which is far greater than A and B alone.
Right. Cool. Well, that seems promising. We've already kind of talked about what 2026 is looking like, but maybe just to close out, what's one lesson that you learned from 2025 that you're going to take with you into next year?
I mean, this is something that I hope people take away when they see like the expos, which is you all have a comparative advantage. There is something, like, this isn't about me, it's not about WatchMojo. There's something you, Rob, are really good at. There's something that Yvonne is better at than most other people. There's something that Joe on this producing the show is really, really like skilled at, that he is better at than other things he does, but he's also better at than others. And I feel like we have this mental block that, well, we can't really pursue that or run with that, either where you are now at a WatchMojo or where the world is. That second part, I think, is false. I do think that everybody really, really has the potential to be like the Wayne Gretzky, the Tiger Woods, the Michael Jordan of their racket. But you do have to marry like the self, the micro, with the macro and the community. So this is a great example. I could not have helped the Expos 20 years ago. Not because I'm any different, but because the economics, the macro was really different. So yes, you could say I don't have, the Rolodex or the financial means, but I'm not writing a $3 billion check. It's more I can bring it together, and those skills I had then, but it was more the macro was off. So what I'm getting at is, I think whatever obstacle people create for themselves, it is self-imposed. It's a bit like you're driving in your sleep, not really, but in your sleep, you might see a wall in front of you, and your natural tendency is to slow down. In real life, please slow down. But in a way, when it comes to these things, that wall doesn't really exist. You created it. You think there's a wall. You think there's an obstacle. Here, the very same people that 2 weeks ago, maximum 3 weeks ago, were like, impossible, expos, not happening, no money. You know what those jabronis are telling me now? They're no longer saying the money's not there and it's impossible. Now they're like, well, why would you wait 4 years for the expos? Go buy the Padres, go buy the Twins, go bid on an NBA team. And I'm like, oh, so it's no longer impossible. You know what I mean? Now it's fully feasible.
Right.
And you're telling me there's a better way, when a week ago you were like, there's no way. And I forgive them. I'm not like, you are betrayed me. I'm just like, so you see, you created these blocks in your head that I didn't create, you created. So that's the main takeaway, that I, even last year when I was on the beach, I was like, I don't know if we should do the podcast. I don't know if we should do whatever, anything, even you're like, I want to go to DC. There is some boondoggle with like UAP crazies. I'm like, great. I'm happy you want to go. I'm happy you want to wake up in the morning, go to the airport, put up with that, because most people are lazy and complacent. So I just, when I hear somebody willing to get out of their comfort spot, that's really the victory. So that's the main takeaway, which is get out of your comfort spot. And when people say it's not possible, F them, kids.
Wasn't it Henry Ford who said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right?
Well, I mean, I like this quote possibly, but I do remember his quote regarding the, if I just ask more people what they want, they will say what? They're going to say faster horses. Let me tell you this line. Okay, so I'm going to end it with you. William Randolph Hearst, by no means again, Hearst, this guy, swashbuckling risk taker. His great grandkids now sitting there counting their nickels. Everything is crazy to them. That's why William Randolph Hearst put it in his trust that I don't want any of my kids and grandkids to run the company. He was smart. The people here, they have their grandkids running their companies into the ground, but we're not going to go there. So this is his quote. Any man who has the brains to think and the nerve to act for the benefit of the people of the country is considered a radical by those who are content with stagnation and willing to endure disaster, end quote. You know exactly who I'm talking about in this village. That era is done. It's up to the people now. Do you want to continue to support this system that has held you down, Or do you want to fulfill your potential and fulfill the city's potential? It's very simple. There's the past and there's the future. You pick your sides accordingly. Doesn't change my life, doesn't change the outcome. It's MLB's hands, but you understand exactly what I'm getting at.
Yep, absolutely. Well, to just end on a lighter and more fun note,
Yes.
we have a great question from our producer, Yvonne. Is there a movie, show, book, album, or anything else coming out in 2026 that you're really excited about, Ash?
Well, I mean, Aria, the music album where we're translating the Persian songs into English, reimagining them. I mean, again, everybody is so stuck in their ways. I would love for the whole album to come out, but getting 10 families of dead people is hard, just logistically. So that will be released as singles. I think there will be an episode or episodes of Running Out of Ideas, because that will be purposely done as shorts, as like a big pilot for an eventual series. I'd be surprised if Countdown, those are more long-term. But yeah, there's going to be a ton more. And I will actually say this, because I don't really care anymore about how everybody feels, and I'm just more about follow your gut, follow your instinct, follow your purpose, stick to your principles. I think in 1 year, if we sit here, Watch Mojo and you and I, it'll be unrecognizable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because we have everything we need. We have the audience, we have the resources, we have the know-how, yada, yada. I'm not sitting here saying I'm going to send somebody to Mars, but the stuff that we pursue are in our wheelhouse. So it's go time. And also, I no longer care needlessly, excessively about how people's feelings are when I realize that their intentions were never pure and in the right place. At this point, if they are unhappy because their ego is bruised, but their intentions was never in it for the greater good, yeah, I don't really care anymore. Like,
what about outside of Watch Mojo? Anything that you're looking forward to for next year?
I mean, next year World Cup. I'm a sports fan, so I'm looking forward to the World Cup. Yeah, no, there's a lot happening, but I mean, I also think we started. We are in no rush. But my guess is like all the parties that looked at investing or acquiring in Watch Mojo, I think like we're getting close to some kind of meeting of the minds and alignment of what those documents look like. It takes a while because we're in no rush. And also, as you look at the slate and as you look at the expos, these are some things that some partners are more interested than others. But my guess is next year will be some update on that front.
Cool. Well, since this is likely our last podcast of the year, I want to take the opportunity to wish you happy holidays and happy new year.
Likewise, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas. And yeah, no, I mean, just spend the time, eat, sleep, spend time with your kids. It goes really, really fast. I cannot stress that enough to my team. I'm like, spend time with your spouse, spend time with your family. When they bury you into the ground, nobody other than your kids is going to remember that you were working late. I'm not saying don't work late that one time because you want to and you should, but the only investment I tell everybody to make is in their kids, and the rest is gravy.
Great advice. All right. Well, thanks again, Ash. It's always a pleasure, and thanks everybody who watched. Wishing you guys a happy holidays as well, and we'll see you all in the new year.
Take care, guys. Love
See
you
ya.
all. Cheers. Bye.